Good Monday morning of the 6th week of Easter. And this whole week, the first readings from the Acts of the Apostles. And in my mind, it's a neat story because you see the preaching of the apostles as they move from the center to the periphery. They move into the in the Mediterranean world. Out of the centerpiece, which is Jerusalem, they move out. The encounters that were the non-Jewish world. They encounter the pagan world. And as they go along, their preaching generates conversion. And they also face their own hostilities. You see the growth of the church. And I think we're in this, I told you that before. I know I'm wasting your time, but I think we're in the second apostolic age. Because I think as the apostles moved out of Jerusalem and moved in, as it were, the Greco-Roman world, and in a sense, they helped create, with Rome and Greece, Western civilization. I always talk about that. I know I do it in my homilies. I don't know if I do it here. I never listen to myself. I'm afraid to. Anyway, I mean that too. I'm not kidding. You have to tell me how far off the wall I am at times. But when you want to understand our own culture and our own civilization, you have to see it came about by three enormous forces. None of them military, although the Romans conquered that part of the world, and without the Roman Empire, it wouldn't have happened. So let's say at the point of a sword as well. And that is the biblical tradition, the Hebrew tradition, and the New Testament, obviously, Christ, see? And the proclamation of Christ, and the Old Testament, the consummation of it, you see? The totality of the biblical faith. Plus, when it moves into Greece, it moves into in this sense, the scientific world, the Greek philosophers. And you can see it's going to happen. They're going to bang heads with the philosophers. The philosophers say, yeah, don't call us, we'll call you. There was a lot of action going on, but you see what happens then, the faith becomes theological because it engages in the philosophical world. Hence, now you have a combination of both faith and reason. That's the essence of the West. Faith and reason, you see? And the third thing is the Roman Empire. The rule of law, the same law for all peoples. See, that's universality. All three. A gospel of global humanity. The philosophical world, which is global, doesn't care who you are, where you came from, or anything. It is the rule of reason, and then the rule of law. You see, if you want to understand who and what we are, you got to understand where we came from. So I got a kid somewhere in class, sometime in my incredibly silly career in many ways. The kid said something about, I don't know, he was knocking Christianity. And I said to him, if it wasn't for Christianity, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. Meaning, I wasn't talking about the school. I was talking about our culture. I said, come on, stop being silly. Without Christianity and its universality through the Roman Empire, combined with Greek science, you wouldn't have Western culture. The genius of the West is the theological foundations to its constitutions and its evolution. Faith-seeking reason, you see. Faith-seeking understanding. It's been the very beginning. Okay? When St. Paul goes and talks and preaches to the Gentiles, in a way he sets the stage for universal Christianity and therefore universal culture, global culture. I didn't say any of that right, but you get it. This is, I'll read it to you. He said, we set sail from Troas, making a straight run for Samothrace, and then the next day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, a leading city in that district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. See, you got Rome here. We spent some time in that city. On the Sabbath, we went outside the city gate along the river where we thought there would be a place to pray. We sat and spoke with the women who had gathered there. One of them, a woman named Lydia, a dealer in purple cloths from the city of Thyatira, I guess you say it, a worshiper of God, listened, and the Lord opened her heart to pay attention to what Paul was saying. After she and her household had been baptized, she offered us an invitation. If you consider me a believer in the Lord, come and stay at my home. And she prevailed on us. She's a Gentile. That's a Gentile world that invited St. Paul, the apostles. You see, isn't that neat? That woman is a symbol of in a sense, she's a symbol of the non-Jewish world, the Gentile world. Greece, I call it the Mediterranean world, because you really can't talk about any one part without seeing its reflection in the other parts, like Lily guarding the door right now, you see? And I think it's where we are today. I think we are we're de-Europeanizing the faith. I don't know how else to say it. We're no longer Eurocentric. When America is a suburb of Europe, you get what I'm saying, culturally and everything. We're Europeans. But I think now, and the faith is highly European. But what's happening now is as we preach the gospel to the Asian world will listen creatively. They'll bring their own genius to it, as the Romans did, as the Greeks did. This is the new age of global Christianity, in my opinion. You and I are talking and listening here and all the rest. We're not going to see it. We'll see glimpses of it. But our great-grandchildren will see it with flourishing. And one of the indicators for me, and I know I don't want to beat this thing to death, but one it is, where are vocations, let's say to religious orders coming from? They're coming from Asia and Africa. But they're coming mostly, I'm thinking, we've been in Africa forever. And we've been on the edge of Asia forever, but now we're at the heart of Asia. And I think especially China. My Passionist community has been in China for 100 years. We were imprisoned, expelled, a lot of things, martyred. We have four of our men in the ground there. They were murdered. 3 were murdered and 1 died of typhoid. I think it was in 1929. I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah. The blood of the martyrs. You don't have to be killed. They were killed because they were European foreigners. That's, I think, what happened. Whatever the case may be, their blood is in the ground. And it's interesting that our Passionist missions there, and we've been out of there for 75 years. The communists kicked us out after imprisoning our men. There was still the faith there. 3rd or 4th generation, they're still believers. That's the truth. Out of the blood of the martyrs. That was the greatest period of our order. Was its missionary efforts beyond the European community, the American European community, as it went into the deep South, that is South America, although that was commensurate to the North America, but especially Africa and most especially Asia. That's what I think. Could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scholar on this stuff. I don't know anything about it, except I see what happened in my order. And I see the evolution of the church taking place in Asia. And I know that as you plant the seed, the ground makes a difference on how the seed flourishes. Not indifferent. We're going to have a global Christianity within the next 100 years, within less. And that will reflect as much Asia and Africa as it has for 2,000 years reflected the European soul and mind. We are living in a colossal age. I don't want to beat it to death. We're in the second greatest age since the 5th century, since Rome became Christianized. You know, in the 400s. That's late 300s, 400s. I always get that all wrong. Don't ever take footnotes. You'll be wasting your time. See? But we're in that period. We saved Western civilization through the Middle Ages. Our monasteries and schools, our cathedral schools, monasteries, and we created the universities. We preserved the great manuscripts of the Greeks, especially, and the Romans, and hence we preserved the foundations of Western intellectual life. And out of that came the universities. Universities were originally monasteries and cathedral schools, especially in England and Europe, Northern Europe. Without us, as I told that kid in class who tried to trash the Christianity, I said, you wouldn't be sitting here. I mean, you wouldn't be here. We created the intellectual and the scientific mind. We preserved and created it, sustained it. See, that's the truth. Anyway, we're in, I think, the next great age of the church since that early period of the 4th and 5th century. I think we are now. We are global. And that is going to enrich the church as much as the church will enrich the world, the Asian world. The Asian world will enrich the church.